Hi, Sata. Thank you for sending me in your task one. And I'm very, very sorry to hear about your grandmother. My best wishes to you and to all your family. So this task one is on shoe sales. Okay, I'll put the picture in so we can see what we're talking about here. That makes it a little bit easier. And I put a few corrections in, and the rest I'm just going to run through with you as we go along. So the bar chart illustrates the amount of sales from, or the total sales of, I think is better, brown leather and black leather shoes in 9 European countries, nations in 2018. Good, okay. In France, sales of, I'm going to suggest here, black leather shoes was the lowest at 30,000 units. Okay, which was the least amongst all countries. Okay, that's the same as the lowest. So you could put this in, but you don't need to. By contrast, black leather sales in the UK were double that of France. So I'm looking at black leather there and black leather here. Were double that of France at 100,000. Okay. Compared to, hang on. Sorry, hang on, have I got that wrong? Let me just check those numbers there. Okay, so you've put here, by contrast, black leather sales doubled to 100,000 in the UK with black shoes at just over 55,000. Okay, not quite sure I can work out that sentence. Maybe it's not what I thought it was. Okay, but you could, if you want to contrast these two here, you could say that sales of black so in contrast to France where they were low, in that of the UK they were almost 3 times higher, you could say. So rather than double that of France, you would say 3 times more than, which is a really nice way of making a comparative. 3 times more than that of France at 100,000. Okay, and then stop there. So you'd have to stop. If you did my sentence, you'd have to stop it there. Moving on to Germany, Ireland, and Holland, comma, and then brown leather, small b, brown leather sales rose now. Okay, were at, okay, sales amounted to, okay, respectively, while in Germany and Ireland, black leather register sales of 54. Okay, now we've got a big problem here because the language you're using, all the lovely words like declined and stagnated, all these lovely words here, which are fabulous, do not work on a static graph, a static picture. This is a static picture, which means it's 2018 only. There's no other year. So this language you can only use if there are other years and you're talking about a trend. So a lot of this is quite difficult for me to mark because you are not referring to the right, you're not using the right kind of language for this kind of graph, okay? In the link, I'm going to give you a link to like a podcast that one of my colleagues did about these, which I think would be really useful for you to watch, and then maybe do the question again after that. So regarding Belgium, brown leather sales were drastically low. Okay, so you can't really use this decreased. Okay, and were drastically low at only representing the least sales of all shoes in the total graph. However, the black shoes were similar to that of the UK at 105,000. Okay, nice. However, in Poland, brown shoe sales, okay, brown shoe sales, no, in Poland, okay, so 130 you want there. Yeah, so in contrast, brown shoe sales in Poland were the highest, yeah, at 130,000. Okay, okay, so then you don't need that because if you're going to say were the highest, so you're thinking of language of comparisons. So comparisons and superlatives. That's what you want to be looking at throughout this kind of task. In Hungary, okay, Hungary's got the most of black sales. Okay, in Hungary, So let's start with sales. Sales of black leather shoes in Hungary were the highest out of all the countries shown, followed closely by, what's this one at the end? Followed closely by Italy, okay, which was X thousand less, something like that. The respectively, I'd only use that once. I know Ben loves it, but also Ben says only use it once. I think they'll need to watch out for that. Brown shoe sales in Germany and Hungary were at, yes, okay. You've already mentioned them there. Do you want to group that together? Mention them then. Overall, there was an erratic pattern in, yeah, we can't say that. You can't say pattern because it's not a pattern, but you could say there was erratic variation. You could use that word in the sales of shoe types. Nevertheless, yeah, okay, that was fine. Spell Belgium, spell that correctly. Okay, good. All right, so the biggest problem is that you need the language for a static graph, not a graph with a trend. So a lot of your lovely language, which would be so good in a graph, doesn't work for this. That's the biggest difficulty. But other than that, what I do like is the information that you've chosen to talk about. So I think you've grouped you've done nice groupings, and you've chosen all the contrasts. So you have highlighted to me the most important information, obviously things like this, and the highest ones, and then sort of patterns where you see patterns. Yeah, so you've done a good job. I would suggest maybe have a look at that video, and then maybe rewrite it if you can. That would be great. Thanks so much. Well done.